The oceans, vast and deep, have always been places of mystery and life beyond human reach. But what if beneath their tranquil surface, something darker and more unsettling lurks? Imagine a future ocean that looks familiar at first glance, its shimmering blues and greens still dazzling to the eye, but beneath that calm lies an unsettling quiet, a subtle sickness creeping through its ecosystems. This is no ordinary decline. It's a silent transformation, a hint that the ocean is not just dying but mutating into something we scarcely recognize. As temperatures rise, currents falter, and acid levels climb, the ocean's old rhythms falter, replaced by strange new cycles that feel eerily unnatural. We tend to think of parasites as the villains of nature, but in this changing seascape, they might be the mysterious puppeteers pulling the strings. What if these parasites are neither wholly evil nor benign but the ocean's last desperate attempt to heal itself? The paradox is that the ocean may be saved by its smallest, most insidious inhabitants, creatures that prey on life but also give it a chance to survive. When we look deeper, the usual signs of ocean trouble become haunting. The skeletal remains of coral reefs bleached white and eerily silent, fish whose movements seem lethargic or oddly synchronized, and strange blooms of plankton that glow in unnatural shades. These phenomena hint at a disrupted ecosystem struggling to find balance, a fragile network on the brink of collapse. But what if these changes suggest a new kind of order? The ocean's decay is giving birth to an unexpected form of life, dominated not by the grand predators or colorful fish we know, but by parasites that have learned to thrive amidst chaos. Some consume their hosts outright. Others subtly manipulate their hosts' behavior, turning them into walking, swimming vessels that serve their strange purposes. The line between life and death blurs, as these parasites recycle nutrients, prevent toxic buildup, and even alter the chemistry of the water. Could these tiny creatures be the hidden healers of an ocean in crisis? Or are they harbingers of a biological nightmare, reshaping the seas in their eerie image? The story begins to twist from ecological mystery to something more unsettling as the ocean's parasites reveal themselves not just as freeloaders, but as architects of a new order. Imagine fish and invertebrates connected by invisible threads, their movements synchronized like dancers in a dark ballet choreographed by parasites. These organisms rely less on their own instincts and more on the signals sent through networks of microscopic invaders. It's a strange collaboration, a parasitic web that controls vast shoals of fish, directing their paths through nutrient-rich waters, managing oxygen flows, and even regulating reproduction cycles. The eerie beauty of this collective behavior masks a deeper horror. Individual creatures lose control, their biological will subsumed under a parasitic hierarchy. This connection transforms isolated life forms into parts of a sprawling entity that feels almost alien and deliberate. What does it mean for a creature to live, yet serve another's will? And who truly rules this strange sea, the host or the parasite? Scientists observing these changes face a puzzle that challenges traditional biology. Parasites are generally seen as harmful, but here they seem to take on a dual role: destroyers and creators. Their presence cleans oceans clogged by pollution, their metabolic processes detoxify harmful chemicals, and their networks stabilize marine food webs that once teetered on collapse. Genetic studies reveal startling exchanges of DNA between parasites and hosts, blurring boundaries and creating hybrid organisms uniquely adapted to survive. It's as if evolution itself has rewritten its rules in these waters, favoring an interconnectedness that feels both miraculous and deeply disconcerting. Yet, there's an unsettling question: how sustainable is this forced balance? When healing requires control at the expense of freedom, is survival worth its price? The ocean is no longer just a habitat, but a vast organism entranced by its parasitic symphony. Amid this strange transformation, the ocean is both dying and being reborn in a form that confounds expectations. Large marine animals, once mighty rulers of the seas, now bear glowing trails of parasitic tendrils beneath their skin, strange lights pulsing like alien circuitry. Coral reefs beat with rhythmic undulations, as if alive in ways we cannot fully understand. This new ocean hums with life shaped by parasitic networks that pulse through every current and creature. It is a world of eerie beauty wrapped in an unsettling blanket of control and dependence, where survival means surrendering individuality. This reality invites us to ask urgent questions. Are we witnessing the ocean's salvation or its final capitulation? When parasites dictate the terms, what does it mean to be free in nature's grand design? Such a future, though speculative, nudges us to rethink our fears about parasites and the fate of life itself. Parasites are often cast as villains in the story of biology, but they are also ancient partners in evolution, shaping species over millions of years. Could it be that, in the darkest moments of ocean crisis, they become saviors? This paradox challenges the neat divisions we make between good and bad, host and invader, life and death. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the cost of survival in a rapidly changing world. If the ocean's future depends on parasitic symbiosis, what lessons could that hold for human survival? Are we too connected to invisible networks of influence, biological or technological, that shape our destinies beyond our control? As we gaze into the abyss of future oceans, the eerie transformations caution us about the delicate balance of life. The ocean's pulse may grow stronger with parasitic orchestration, but the price may be too high for those unwilling to surrender autonomy. This creeping unity, while conferring stability, threatens to erase the individual identities of ocean creatures, turning ecosystems into sprawling collaborative beings operating under a parasitic will. It is a haunting reminder that nature's rescue plans might come wrapped in unexpected forms. We must ask ourselves what kind of future we want, not just for the ocean but for life on Earth. Are we prepared to accept a world where survival is inseparable from control, where freedom must be traded for continuity? When does healing turn into haunting? The ocean's whispering currents hold secrets older than humanity. Stories of adaptation, survival, and transformation that defy our comfort zones. As we uncover the parasite paradox, we are drawn into a landscape where beauty and horror entwine, where the line between savior and destroyer dissolves into shimmering waves. This is not merely a story about environmental decline, but a profound exploration of life's resilience in the face of unimaginable change. It invites us to embrace mystery, to confront fear, and to reconsider our role in the interconnected web of existence. In the end, perhaps the ocean's future is not a final death sentence but an eerie, awe-inspiring metamorphosis, one that challenges everything we think we know about life beneath the waves. Picture this. You're diving into the future ocean, where the water feels thicker, almost alive with unseen forces, and suddenly you spot them. The infiltrators, those ancient parasites that have always lurked in the shadows of marine life. Tongue-eating isopods pry open fish mouths, replacing tongues with their own wriggling bodies, while parasitic barnacles burrow into whale skin like living barnacles from hell. Microscopic worms twist through shrimp nerves, turning bold hunters into timid drifters that float right into predator jaws. These aren't random acts of cruelty. They're calculated invasions honed over eons, now exploding in a dying sea. As ocean acidification bites and temperatures spike, these parasites don't just survive, they thrive, adapting faster than any apex predator could dream. Their populations surge, filling niches left empty by collapsing food webs, recycling dead biomass into fresh fuel for life. But here's the chilling twist. In this chaos, they're not merely takers. They're becoming something more, something that repairs as it destroys. What hidden agenda drives these tiny tyrants to rule the waves? We've always dismissed parasites as nature's freeloaders, sapping strength from the strong. But in this speculative future, they emerge as unlikely rulers of a fractured ecosystem. Imagine vast schools of fish, their eyes clouded not by death but by parasitic puppeteers redirecting every instinct toward collective survival. These invaders manipulate hormones, hijack neural pathways, and even rewrite host DNA in real-time exchanges that blur species lines. Real-world examples like the nematomorph worms that compel crickets to drown themselves amplify here into oceanic symphonies of control. Parasites regulate overpopulated species, culling the weak to prevent total collapse, their density-dependent cycles acting like invisible brakes on runaway booms. They divert energy flows, channeling waste from dead zones into nutrient pulses that revive barren seafloors. Yet, this rule comes with grotesque intimacy, hosts hollowed out yet animated, walking dead serving parasitic queens. Could these rulers be the ocean's grim gardeners, pruning for a twisted rebirth? Delve deeper, and the horror mounts as parasites weave themselves into every layer of the food web, from plankton to predators, creating a tapestry of dependence no one saw coming. Microscopic protists infect algae blooms, bursting cells to release spores that fertilize distant currents, stabilizing carbon cycles amid climate havoc. Fluke larvae cycle through snails, crabs, and fish, linking trophic levels in chains that pulse with parasitic intent. Studies show they boost biodiversity by toppling dominant species, allowing underdogs to flourish in the gaps. In this future sea, their explosive adaptation floods failing ecosystems with regulators, preventing toxin buildups that once choked entire bays. Hosts don't just tolerate them. They evolve cravings, seeking infection like addicts to a fix that promises survival. The air, or water, grows thick with unease as synchronized behaviors ripple outward, schools twisting in unison like marionettes on submerged strings. Is this dominion a salvation or the birth of a parasitic empire? Science whispers warnings through these visions. Parasites as ecosystem engineers, their complex life cycles knitting fragmented webs back together with threads of control. They weaken prey just enough to balance predator-prey dances, triggering cascades that refresh stale dynamics. Genetic swaps accelerate, birthing hybrids resilient to warming waters and oxygen dips, forms that glow faintly with bioluminescent invaders. No longer content with parasitism, they orchestrate recoveries, detoxifying heavy metals, oxygenating dead zones through host migrations. But the mild terror lies in the loss. Individuality erodes as behaviors align to parasitic whims, freedom traded for fragile stability. Thought-provoking, isn't it, when the villains of biology don hero cloaks woven from host flesh? Real parasites already shape reefs and kelp forests. Here, they scale up to planetary saviors with eldritch costs. What price do we pay when control masquerades as cure? As infiltrators ascend, the ocean's sickness transmutes into a fever dream of renewal, parasites flooding voids with purpose amid the apocalypse. Barnacle clusters on drifting corpses sprout feeder networks, drawing nutrients upward to seed new plankton clouds that blanket the sky in ghostly haze. Worms in whale guts process methane burps, curbing greenhouse spikes from thawing seabeds. Their rule restores chemical balances long shattered by human excess, pH levels creeping back toward habitability. Hosts bear scars that shimmer, translucent skins revealing writhing masses beneath, alive with alien rhythm. This is no clean victory. It's a bargain struck in blood, where survival demands submission to the swarm. Curiosity stirs. If parasites can rule and rebuild, what worlds might they claim next? The sea whispers back in waves of synchronized surf, hiding horrors in its healing embrace. Emotional undercurrents pull us deeper into this paradox, where a mingles with dread at nature's ruthless ingenuity. These rulers aren't mindless. Their mechanisms rival any AI, sensing ecosystem stress to ramp up invasions precisely where needed. Density feedbacks keep populations in check, preventing their own overreach from tipping the scales. In speculative fury, they evolve mass infections that turn reefs into beating hearts, polyps contracting to oxygenate waters. Horror subtly builds as autonomy fades. Fish no longer flee but circle, drawn by chemical lures from within. We've seen glimpses in today's oceans. Isopods dominating fisheries, flukes sinking bird migrations. Here, it amplifies to oceanic overhaul parasites as the ultimate adapters. Do we cheer their rise or shiver at the strings they pull? The infiltrator's reign unveils a mystery wrapped in science fiction allure, challenging our disgust with glimpses of grandeur. They connect isolated survivors into resilient networks, boosting connectance that models predict averts total collapse. Prey weakened by them feeds predators primed for scarcity, cycles humming with enforced harmony. Genetic fluidity spawns chimeras, sharks with jellyfish venom, corals hosting bacterial shields against bleach. Mild horror creeps in the visuals. Eyes replaced by compound sensors, fins twitching to unspoken commands. This rule recycles chaos into order, but at what unseen cost to the soul of the sea? Questions linger like deep currents. Are they saviors in disguise or conquerors cloaked in symbiosis? The future ocean pulses, waiting for our verdict. In this act of ascension, parasites transcend infamy. Their rule a bridge from decay to dominion that leaves us breathless. They infiltrate not to kill but to commandeer, turning hosts into vessels of vast renewal across poison depths. Biodiversity blooms under their yoke, niches refilled with hybrids born of forced fusion. The atmosphere thickens with unknown potential. What if this is evolution's endgame? A unified superorganism arising from crisis. Emotional resonance hits hard. Beauty in the grotesque, hope laced with haunting loss. Science grounds the speculation. Parasites already regulate, connect, stabilize. Here, they seize the throne. Mystery endures in their motives, horror in our helplessness to intervene. Ultimately, the infiltrators teach a sobering truth. In nature's grand theater, even the smallest players can rewrite the script. Imagine plunging into the puppet sea, where schools of fish twist and turn not by their own will but as extensions of a hidden mind, coordinated by parasites that whisper through nerves and blood. Jelly swarms pulse in perfect unison, their translucent bells flaring like signals in a vast underwater network, defying the chaos of a dying ocean. This is no natural harmony. It's a rise of symbionts, parasites evolving from mere invaders into neural architects of marine life. In this future abyss, every flick of a fin, every drift of plankton, serves a collective rhythm dictated by microscopic overlords. Real science hints at this. Tapeworms like Schistocephalus solidus already alter stickleback escapes, dampening flight responses to boost transmission. Here, that manipulation scales up, linking thousands in eerie ballets across currents. What force binds these creatures into one throbbing entity, stripping away their solitude? The sea holds its breath, hiding the answer in deepening shadows. Scientists of tomorrow gaze in awe and dread at this distributed organism, where parasites reroute sensory signals like living wires in a biological circuit. Fish no longer scatter from predators. Instead, infected sentinels draw threats, sacrificing themselves to protect the shoal's core. Oxygen cycles stabilize as hosts migrate in programmed waves, pumping air into hypoxic zones long given up for dead. Coral polyps contract in sync, filtering water through symbiotic veins that glow faintly under stress. Studies show parasites disrupting shoal alarms, turning panic into calculated poise that fools even avian hunters above. Emotional chills run deep, beauty in the bioluminescence masking a loss of self, individuality dissolving into the swarm. Is this evolution's cruel gift, a superorganism born from crisis? Or the first stirrings of an oceanic hive mind, watching us from the deep? The horror subtly builds as autonomy fades. A lone shark circles endlessly, its path dictated by worm clusters in its brain, forever chasing phantom prey. Shoals form impossible geometries, spirals and grids that optimize nutrient flows amid warming waters. Parasites synchronize reproduction, timing spawns to tidal pulses that rebuild ravaged nurseries. Jellyfish armadas herd krill into fertile upwellings, their stings now tools of herding rather than hunting. Research reveals infected fish bolder in open water, their altered boldness rippling to uninfected kin, forging unity from fear. This puppetry restores balance. Dead zones shrink, biodiversity surges in the enforced peace. Yet questions haunt. When does a school become a single mind? And who pulls the strings in this symphony of surrender? Delve into the mechanisms and mystery thickens, parasites hijacking dopamine pathways, flooding hosts with calm amid apocalypse. Neural links form across species, flukes in snails signaling crabs that guide fish into safe shallows. Oxygen regulation emerges from mass behaviors, fins fanning currents to aerate sludge-choked bottoms. Visuals mesmerize. Luminescent trails weaving through midnight zones, mapping a web of control invisible to the naked eye. Parasite burdens correlate with deeper changes, heavier loads yield tighter coordination, bolder risks for the collective good. Science fiction blends seamlessly. Real copepods already tweak goby aggression, here amplified to ecosystem salvation. Curiosity burns. Could this connected sea outthink our machines? Dread whispers of control lost forever in the deep. Emotional undercurrents surge as we witness whales breaching in unison, their songs modulated by gut dwellers into calls that summon distant pods. Reefs pulse like hearts, polyps ejecting waste in choreographed bursts that cleanse acidified waters. Predators hesitate, their hunts thwarted by decoy schools that scatter just so, preserving the web. This rise transforms tragedy into tentative triumph, parasites as reluctant guardians of a fractured world. Thought-provoking indeed. What if freedom is the luxury of stable times, discarded for survival's yoke? Mild horror lingers in the eyes of hosts, vacant yet purposeful, souls bartered for the greater pulse. The puppet sea thrives, but at what intimate cost? Nature's gambit unfolds, veiled in bioluminescent fog. From real-world glimpses, this speculative leap feels tantalizingly close. Nemetomorphs drowning insects, scaled to oceanic overlords engineering flows. Infected sticklebacks disrupt escapes, here evolving to unify rather than divide, turning weakness into web-wide strength. Shoals ignore shelters, drawn back to surface perils by parasitic cues that prioritize transmission over safety. Future ecologists dub it the symbiont veil, a curtain of control stabilizing carbon sinks against collapse. Mixes with unease. Vast kelp forests swaying to shared rhythms, fronds releasing spores in timed salvos. Questions probe the unknown. Does consciousness emerge in this mesh? A planetary brain birthed in brine? Horror subtly coils. If parasites rule the sea, what infiltrates our shores next? The rise peaks in surreal splendor, manta rays gliding as one through thermal plumes, thermoregulating entire bays with wing beats synced to invaders. Plankton clouds bloom and burst on command, sequestering heat in rhythmic cycles that cool surface havoc. Hosts crave the connection, seeking infected mates whose symbionts promise endurance. This distributed dream mends rifts, fisheries rebound with hybrid vigor, toxins purged by metabolic sieves. Yet the mild terror persists, behaviors no longer voluntary, instincts overwritten like code in a viral rewrite. Science grounds the vision. Parasites already link trophic chains, here they crown themselves. Ponder this. In yielding control, does life ascend or merely persist? The sea murmurs, its puppets dancing on. As the puppet sea envelopes us, philosophical dread mingles with wonder at nature's audacious pivot from doom. Parasitic networks pulse with purpose, every creature a node in salvation's grid, defying entropy's grasp. Emotional resonance hits, haunting unity born of invasion, hope forged in subjugation's fire. Mystery endures, who evolves here, host or hidden master? Horror fades to reverence for resilience's price, a world rewired yet recognizably alive. This act closes the veil slightly, hinting at tides turning under unseen hands. Ultimately, the symbionts teach surrender's strange power, ecosystems reborn as one. In the deep's embrace, control becomes the ultimate symbiosis. The turning tide sweeps through the puppet sea, where scientists uncover a shocking truth. Parasitic networks are the invisible glue holding this rewired world together, stabilizing biochemistry against collapse. Dead zones that once yawned like black mouths across ocean floors now teem with life, their hypoxic voids filled by host migrations orchestrated from within. Carbon levels, spiraling wildly from thawed methane clathrates, normalize as symbiont-driven blooms sequester the excess in vast, pulsating mats. Once extinct species return not as ghosts, but as cybernetic hybrids, their flesh fused with parasitic code that grants resilience to acid seas. Genetic integrations accelerate, parasites swapping alleles like hackers breaching firewalls, birthing forms that defy taxonomy. Shared microbiomes pulse through food webs, detoxifying pollutants at molecular scales no filter could match. This discovery chills the blood, salvation engineered by the very forces we feared most. What alchemy turns invaders into indispensable architects of renewal. In labs afloat on recovering waves, researchers map the mechanisms with trembling hands, revealing DNA co-rewriting that blurs host-parasite boundaries into oblivion. Horizontal gene transfer surges, nematodes injecting plasmids that armor corals against bleaching heat. Symbionts regulate enzyme cascades, neutralizing ocean acidification one proton at a time through host metabolisms. Cybernetic echoes emerge in visuals, sharks with bioluminescent veins charting thermal refuges, guiding fleets to survivable depths. Real science foreshadows this. Trematodes already tweak bivalve engineering, here scaled to planetary pivots. Emotional awe swells amid the horror. Ecosystems don't merely persist but evolve under eldritch directives. Dead reefs calcify anew, polyps hosting bacterial shields from parasitic gifts. Is this the ocean's defiant roar against doom? Or a surrender scripted in alien script? The world rewires before astonished eyes, chemical balances tilting back from the brink as parasites flood voids with purpose-built biology. Oxygen blooms in former wastelands, fins fanning currents in programmed surges that aerate sludge eternal. Hybrid megafauna reclaim thrones, whales with gut floras processing plastics into harmless chains, their migrations seeding global recovery. Horror subtly threads the triumph. Individuality frays as behaviors align to network whims, freedom's ghost haunting unified forms. Thought-provoking depths beckon. What if stability demands this dissolution of self? Speculative fiction grounds in truth. Helminths as sentinels already track Mediterranean shifts, here they seize control. Carbon sinks deepen, tides turning from poison to cradle. Nature's engineers rise from the despised, rewriting ruin into renaissance. Delve into the guts of this transformation, where Cori-written genomes spawn chimeras thriving in extremes no pure strain could endure. Parasites orchestrate mass castrations in overabundant clams, channeling energy to larval clouds that rebuild kelp scaffolds. pH gradients smooth as symbionts pump ions through infected tissues, countering acid rain's relentless burn. Visual poetry unfolds. Jellyfish armadas glowing with engineered venoms that stun excess algae, clearing paths for light-starved seagrasses. Mild dread coils in the mechanics. Hosts crave the fusion, addicted to enhancements that bind them eternally. Science blends seamlessly. Trematodes indicate cockle perturbations, amplified to ecosystem salvation. Emotional undercurrents surge. Hope laced with loss, as oceans heal through intimate invasion. Does evolution favor such forced symbioses when apocalypse looms? Scientists grapple with data streams painting a sea reborn, dead zones shrinking like wounds closing under parasitic sutures. Extinct rays glide with fin fungi hybrids granting electric propulsion through deoxygenated depths. Genetic fluidity floods lineages, viruses vectored by worms shuffling traits across phyla in viral symphonies. This rewiring restores trophic cascades, predators feasting on balanced prey no longer bloated by unchecked booms. Yet the unknown whispers, how fragile this equilibrium, propped on microscopic thrones. Horror lingers in the hybrid's eyes, vacant yet visionary, souls traded for survival's ledger. Real-world echoes chill, parasites engineering bivalve beds, here crowning oceanic overlords. Curiosity ignites. Could humanity learn from this biochemical bargain? As tides turn definitively, the paradox crystallizes. Parasites not destroyers but distributors of resilience in a fracturing world. They purge heavy metals via host excretions timed to currents, cleansing bays long deemed lost. Coral hearts beat stronger, polyps synced to expel intruders in collective heaves. Cybernetic swarms optimize energy, minimizing waste in webs once profligate. Emotional resonance deepens. Awe at ingenuity, unease at the cost of control. Speculation soars on factual wings. Endoparasites sentinel global fluxes, predicting trophic health. Rewritten seas shimmer with potential, hybrids heralding a new epoch. What hidden potentials stir in our own microbiomes, mirroring this marine metamorphosis? The discovery unfolds in waves of revelation, mechanisms unveiling a sea transformed fundamentally, alien yet alive. Shared plasmids grant thermal tolerance, fish schooling through scalding plumes unscathed. Oxygen factories emerge from infected sponges, pores dilating to flood basins with breath. Horror subtly builds. Lines dissolve, every creature a patchwork of borrowed code pulsing in unison. Questions probe the void, sustainable savior or ticking time bomb of dependence. Science fiction thrives on truth. Nematodes track warming, here they terraform. Emotional tides ebb and flow, terror yielding to tentative trust in nature's gambit. The turning tide carries whispers of worlds remade. In this pivotal shift, the ocean emerges not healed but evolved, parasitic genius rewiring chaos into coherent pulse. Hybrids dominate horizons, their forms testaments to fusion's fierce logic amid crisis. Biochemical stability reigns, a hard-won peace forged in genomic fires. Mild mystery endures. Who authors this script? Evolution or emergent intelligence? Awe overwhelms the dread, revealing parasites as unlikely luminaries of life. Philosophical chills. If seas surrender to symbionts for survival, what parallels haunt our networked age? The world turns, tides whispering of balances bought dearly. Ultimately, this act unveils nature's profound paradox, healing through the heart of horror. The ocean's recovery under parasitic influence brings with it an unsettling cost, a price not measured in carbon or chemicals, but in the very essence of individuality. Hosts once autonomous, from titanic whales to delicate coral polyps, now embody a strange duality. Parasitic networks have entwined themselves so deeply that survival depends on this symbiotic leash. Reproductive cycles synchronize, controlled by microscopic intermediaries that dictate when and where to spawn, replacing instinct with command. Behavior shifts are profound. Fish and invertebrates lose self-will, their actions orchestrated by internal puppeteers for the greater health of the ecosystem. It's a paradox as old as life itself, a desperate trade between freedom and the chance to endure. Eyes once shimmering with independent life now flicker with shadows of parasitic glow, the ultimate badges of their allegiance. This transformation raises haunting questions. When does survival become surrender? And is there meaning in the loss of agency if the ocean lives? This grim bargain, the price of balance, transforms the very fabric of marine communities into something alien yet fragile. Hosts evolve cravings for infection, drawn by chemical signals that promise not comfort or health but survival itself. A craving that binds them tightly to their invaders. Entire populations shift physiological thresholds to accommodate parasitic fusion, birthing novel phenotypes that blur species lines. Whales shimmering with bioluminescent tendrils, fish skin translucent enough to reveal writhing parasites beneath. It's a grotesque beauty, an ecological symphony conducted by unseen hands. Behavior is no longer choice but protocol, every movement part of a wider parasitic plan. It's a world where individuality is a liability, and identity melts into the collective pulse of parasitic will. Such transformations may elicit awe, but also a creeping, existential horror. Autonomy traded for the tenuous promise of life. Yet, this price reveals deeper evolutionary truths. Parasitic control isn't just oppression but a rewriting of survival strategies at genetic and systemic levels. Hosts and parasites engage in an accelerated evolutionary dance. Gene swapping, microbiome integration, and biochemical negotiation form a tangled web of codependence. This fusion generates forms uniquely suited to harsh futures, creatures surviving extremes unimaginable in old ocean blueprints. The ocean's narrative bends toward a collective survival, where individuality dissolves in favor of stability and function. It's a radical redefinition of life's architecture, a testament to resilience crafted in the crucible of crisis. Here, nature's brutal pragmaticism overcomes sentimental attachments to freedom. It asks, can identity remain when the cost threatens extinction? Marine life's surrender takes on eerie forms, architectures of control palpable in every gesture. Massive schools of fish operate as single organism-like entities. This biological unity maintained by parasitic symbionts routing sensory input and motor output in real time. Coral reefs shift from isolated colonies to interconnected biocircuits, their polyps signaling each other via parasitic nerve networks. Behavior flows from hive mind protocols, programmed responses suppressing individual impulses for communal benefit. This parasitic symphony pulses with life and eerie order, a miracle born from a nightmare. Images of creatures moving in ghostly unison evoke awe and discomfort, like passengers on a ship steered by unseen captains. What remains of self in this collective? Has the ocean's soul been rewritten into a new script? Scientific observations reveal that this symbiotic world thrives on the implicit control exerted by parasites, maintaining ecosystem functionality and biogeochemical cycles that once teetered on collapse. Parasites shepherd hosts through critical life stages, guiding migrations and spawning events to optimize oxygen flow and nutrient cycling. Their influence extends to food web regulation, preventing imbalances through orchestrated predation and competition modulation. Here, control manifests as ecosystem engineering on a microscopic scale with ramifications spanning thousands of square kilometers. Yet beneath this miracle lies a tension, a delicate balance where any disruption could unravel the fragile order. The ocean's balance hinges on parasitic governance, a fragile empire with stakes beyond imagination. What happens when the rulers themselves falter or evolve beyond recognition? The psychology of this parasitic takeover haunts intuition. Hosts, once vibrant with choice, morph into vessels of programmed survival. Their cravings for infection suggest addiction, a biochemical chain reaction locking life into dependence. This addictive symbiosis fosters a loss of agency but gains a collective resilience against extinction events. The ocean reframes concepts of health and sickness as sides of survival's coin, where damage is healing and control is liberation. The eerie transformations challenge definitions of life, identity, and freedom in profound ways, thrusting us into philosophical territory blended with biological reality. What humanity might mirror in technology or social structures when control becomes synonymous with preservation. Images of massive whales glowing with parasitic tendrils and reefs pulsing like gigantic hearts evoke awe tinged with sadness for what was lost. This future ocean is a living paradox, thriving under a parasitic canopy, beautiful yet alien, full of life that obediently plays its part in the grand design. The mild horror of this new order is tempered by understanding. It is neither salvation nor damnation but an evolutionary necessity born of crisis. Yet the emotional resonance is powerful. This new ocean teaches that survival is no longer about dominance or freedom, but about interconnectedness and sacrifice. It urges reflection on how much autonomy we are willing to trade to preserve life's fragile pulse. Nature's final gambit is played not with force but with intricate alliances forged in the shadows. Ultimately, the ocean presents a haunting question. How far are life's threads willing to unravel their individuality to weave a new tapestry of existence? The parasite's invisible hand guides the future, not as destroyer but as reluctant savior demanding allegiance in exchange for continuity. In this intimate cost of balance, freedom bends to survival's eternal rhythm. The ocean's heart beats in unison, a symphony composed in the minor key of loss and hope. This paradox simmers beneath the waves, waiting for curious minds to confront the boundary between horror and wonder, control and chaos. As the ocean evolves, so must we reconsider definitions of identity, autonomy, and what it means to be alive in a world forever changed. When we look at the vast complexity of ocean ecosystems, it's astonishing how parasites, often overlooked or reviled, hold the reins of balance in subtle yet profound ways. These tiny manipulators serve as ecosystem engineers, influencing population sizes, behaviors, and even the chemical environment of marine habitats. Their role transcends mere parasitism. They act as regulators, keeping dominant species in check and facilitating coexistence among diverse marine life. This delicate push and pull governs not just individual hosts, but the entire food web, weaving interactions that bolster ecosystem robustness. Parasites impose density-dependent controls, preventing outbreaks that could destabilize communities. This biological bureaucracy wards off chaos by maintaining demographic stability across vast marine networks. Could it be that parasites, in their harsh vigilance, are the ocean's unsung custodians? Studies have shown that parasitic species act as early indicators of ecosystem health, reflecting changes in environmental stressors before the impacts become catastrophic. In the Mediterranean Sea, for example, certain helminths serve as sentinel species, mirroring patterns of biodiversity loss and habitat fragmentation. By monitoring fluctuations in parasite diversity and prevalence, scientists gain valuable insights into food web disruptions and pollution effects. This makes parasites invaluable tools in conservation biology and ecological assessments. They act like ecological barometers, integrating biotic and abiotic changes over trophic levels. Such precision highlights how parasites weave into the very fabric of marine ecosystems, their presence signaling either resilience or fragility. Are we ready to rethink parasites not only as threats but as crucial indicators of oceanic balance? Parasites also drive critical processes within aquatic ecosystems, influencing nutrient cycles and energy flows. Through their complex life cycles, which involve multiple hosts spanning fish, birds, and invertebrates, they link different trophic levels, facilitating cascading effects throughout food webs. By weakening certain prey species, parasites can mediate predator-prey interactions and trigger trophic cascades that shape community structure. Their role in enhancing interaction diversity and connectance fortifies ecosystem stability against environmental fluctuations. This indirect orchestration ensures the dynamic equilibrium necessary for marine biodiversity to thrive. Understanding how parasites influence such large-scale ecological processes unravels a crucial piece of the ocean's puzzle. How might this knowledge reshape our approaches to marine ecosystem management? Laboratory experiments and field studies increasingly spotlight the regulatory role of parasites in host population dynamics. Parasitic transmission often follows density-dependent patterns, where infection rates increase with host abundance, creating feedback loops that prevent population explosions. This natural control mechanism promotes demographic stability, which is critical in ecosystems vulnerable to invasive species or environmental instability. For instance, nematodes regulating ungulate populations in terrestrial analogs show parallels in marine systems, where similar processes occur among fish and invertebrates. Such parasite-host dynamics preserve diversity by suppressing dominant species, allowing coexistence and functional resilience. These findings redefine parasites from mere threats to integral stabilizers of ecosystem functions. Might we begin to harness this natural regulatory power for sustainable conservation strategies? An emerging field integrating network ecology approaches models host-parasite interactions to assess ecosystem responses to disturbances such as climate change and habitat modification. Network analyses reveal that parasites enhance modularity and robustness within marine food webs, increasing overall ecological resilience. Complex networks where parasites connect multiple hosts provide redundancy that buffers ecosystems against species loss or environmental stress. Declines in parasite richness and complexity often correlate with weakened trophic interactions and ecosystem fragility. Such insights underscore the importance of protecting parasite biodiversity alongside their hosts for holistic ecosystem health. Do conservation policies sufficiently account for these invisible but vital players in ecological networks? Technological advances in molecular ecology now facilitate large-scale, non-invasive monitoring of parasite diversity through environmental DNA, EDNA metabarcoding. This approach allows scientists to detect parasite assemblages across broad spatial scales, providing real-time assessments of ecosystem integrity. Coupled with traditional ecological data, EDNA surveillance aids in understanding how host parasite networks shift under anthropogenic pressures. Integrative multi-trophic monitoring promises to bridge gaps between parasite ecology, host population trends, and habitat conditions. This integrated perspective equips researchers with tools to forecast ecosystem stress and impending collapses. How might this revolution in monitoring transform our ability to protect vulnerable marine ecosystems? Despite their crucial roles, many knowledge gaps remain regarding marine parasites, including their distribution, host specificity, and long-term impacts on ecosystem functions. Addressing these gaps requires multidisciplinary approaches combining parasitology, ecology, genomics, and conservation science. Understanding parasites' dual nature, as both ecosystem engineers and potential disease agents, is key to balancing their management. Formulating evidence-based strategies that mitigate parasite-related adversities while fostering ecosystem health becomes pivotal for future marine sustainability. This challenge calls for increased awareness of parasites' ecological significance and the development of comprehensive policies that include them as integral ecosystem components. Do we have the scientific resolve to incorporate parasites fully into marine management frameworks? Ultimately, recognizing parasites as critical integrators of ecosystem health broadens our understanding of marine resilience. These silent regulators not only reveal underlying patterns of environmental change but actively shape community dynamics through intricate biological networks. Their influence weaves through biogeochemical cycles and food webs, fostering biodiversity and stabilizing fragile ecosystems. Embracing parasites as essential partners rather than merely threats invites a paradigm shift in marine conservation. It prompts us to reimagine ocean stewardship, appreciating the complex, often hidden interactions sustaining life beneath the waves. As the ocean faces unprecedented challenges, might parasites hold the keys to its endurance and renewal?